What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another Big Three Thursday. Now, last week we were talking about how we were going to, the different styles of street photography. Well, maybe street photography is not for you. Maybe instead of going that route, you want to go a different route. Well, today I'm going to talk about the three different styles of photography. Now, I know what you might be thinking. There's a lot of different styles. There's street, there's portrait, there's street, there's portrait, there's food, there's landscape, wildlife, all different kinds of niches and photography that can take you tons and tons of different places and stuff. Well, I'm here to tell you that there's really only three different categories of photography. And I rented out a little space in my local library so that way I can use this giant whiteboard here to show you the three different styles of photography. Now, apologies in advance if the whiteboard doesn't, show what I'm writing. I'm working with what I got. So, first of all, we're going to draw a little graph. Just to help that show up. There's one. Let's see, we're gonna draw another, and then a third. Hey, I'm getting pretty good at this whole drawing circles thing. So, oh wait, I still need my marker. So, the first one is fine art. Now, fine art, I'll go into that in a second. I'm going to actually write down all three of these instead of going into all three over time. So the first one is fine art. The second one is commercial. If you can't read it, I'm sorry. My handwriting is not the best. And then the last one down here, the biggest circle of them all, is event. This graph here sums up every different style of photography that you can think of, whether that's food or travel, landscape, wildlife, street, portrait, high-end fashion. All of those things can land one of, if not all of, these different sections. For example, we'll start with street photography, the thing I'm proficient in. That lands itself in fine art. Fine art is defined as using something in artistic fashions, and it really depends on what your intentions are with your photo. If I go out and I do street photography, I go out, take some cool photos, downtown Minneapolis, I take that photo, I edit the photo, and I put it on Instagram. That is fine art. And that goes for the same thing if you use your phone and you take a photo of the food that you like, or you take a photo of your family or a trip, stuff like that, and you post that online. That's fine art as well. Now, I get that this might be a little controversial. Some people may disagree. Mind you, this is my perspective. So take it with what you will. But street photography, portrait photography, as long as you are posting it online and that is all you're doing with it, or maybe you put it on your website, or maybe you are selling it as a print in an art show, that is fine art. Now, fine art is a very broad statement. Matter of fact, all three of these are so broad, but they all cover the general photography niches. Now, for commercial work, that is when you get published. If you get your work in a magazine, a newspaper, an article, something like that, and you are getting paid or compensated in some fashion, then you are doing commercial work. Let's say you are working for JCPenney. You got hired by JCPenney to take photos, and those photos are maybe they're going on the website, or maybe they're going on the new article that's coming out for their clothing, or it's going into a new magazine that's gonna be sold in places. That is commercial work. And that could be anything. That could be interior photos. That could be real estate photos. That could be landscape photos somehow. If you have a model and they're out in the wild somewhere, that can be commercial work as well. Primarily, commercial work does end up falling towards portrait or interior design, but again, using street photography as an example, I personally have been published 3 times, and each time that's happened, that takes my fine artwork and puts it into commercial work. Now, of course, seeing as I posted those on Instagram, people sought me out and were like, hey, can we get those photos and put it in an article or in a book or in a magazine, something like that. Then these two start to blend together, which is why we have a graph like this, because that makes it land in the middle. Similar with portrait photography, which is another broad statement, portrait photography can absolutely count as fine art. You can go into a lot of detail, and for those of you that watch anime and go to conventions and stuff, or comic books, cartoons, things like that, if you ever see somebody dressing up as their favorite character and somebody is photographing them and they just post it online, that's fine art. But if you're taking those photos and those photos get put onto the whatever convention's website or used for advertising and stuff like that, that can be commercial work as well. Now, using that analogy, if you are hired by that convention, which is an event, you are now taking event photos. Now, event photography is one that you are hired to take photos at an event, whether that is wedding photography or convention photography or anything really. I mean, birthdays, weddings, like I already said, and any event that you are hired to take photos of, that is event photography. Now, there are people who can mix fine art with event, and those people being people who are trying to get hired for those events. You take your photos, your wedding photos, your birthday photos, your concert photos, stuff like that, and you post them online so that way you can show off your skills and potentially get hired by other people. So when you post it online, that's fine art. But when you get hired, that's commercial work, which makes it blend together. Now, if you're looking for things that end up in all three, I think the easiest way to find that would be portrait work. Now, portrait photography, like I said, can start out as fine art. You can find a model and you can take really nice portrait photos, and then you can end up getting published, which is nice. And let's say that those portrait photos were at a wedding. Let's say it's a wedding magazine. Mind you, again, all hypothetical, but is possible that if you took your wedding photos, that's an event that you were hired to do, and then you posted it online, fine art, and those photos that you posted ended up getting picked up by a wedding magazine. That's commercial work and makes you land right in there. Now, not to say that wedding photography is the only way to make that happen. Let's say instead you get hired to take photos at a gala, and you take really nice photos of the people, the speakers, the entrees, the food and stuff. And let's say you take those photos at that event and you post them online, and that ends up being fine art. And let's say for some odd reason, the food photos end up getting really popular and somebody who has a food blog really wants those photos on their blog, and they pay for the usage rights, that ends up being commercial work, which lands you in all three. Now, again, these are a lot of hoops to jump through to get to all three. It's not common, it's not gonna happen every time, but it is possible. Now, the reason why I'm talking about this is because if you don't know which direction in photography you want to go for, maybe you don't know if you want to do street, or you want to do wildlife, or you want to do landscape, and you don't know, but you want to do something, and you don't know where it'll take you. These are here to show you the possibilities on where you can go with what you're deciding to do. Let's say you don't live in a city like Minneapolis, and instead you live in the burbs. You live where, you got some houses, and the nearest place to go grocery shopping is like a 20-minute drive. And you would do street photography, but you just can't because where are the streets? It's just a long road. It happens. I've seen them, and personally, I think they look really nice. So you can take those photos. You can take those barn photos, the landscape photos, the wildlife photos, and you can post them online. You can absolutely reach out to people who write blogs, people who write articles, people who have magazines, and you can reach out to see if they have anything going on that maybe you can take photos for, and maybe you can get published, and you can get known for that. Then you can do commercial work and become a commercial photographer. That's if you want to get hired in that regard. If that's not your goal, that's totally fine. You can absolutely stick with the fine art aspects. If you go to college for photography, then fine art is what they're going to teach you, but they're also going to try to teach you how to do commercial work and potentially event work, but less so. The fine art aspects take you a lot farther when you go to college. Because when you go to college, they teach you a certain editing style, which we'll talk about in a different video. There's 3 of those. But for now, I just want to get the point across that regardless of the style of photography you want to do, or if you're undecisive on which direction you want to take your photography journey, just know that there's no one way to do it. There's tons and tons of ways and tons of different things that can fit in all of these bubbles. And it's up to whichever direction you have the opportunity to take. And the more you put your stuff out there, the more you do your fine art, or the more you try to get hired for commercial or event work, the more you have opportunities to do more things. So I hope that helped, broaden your imagination just a bit, just enough to really start to think about the possibilities of what you can do with photography. But that is everything about the 3 different styles, the 3 different categories of photography. If you enjoyed this, make sure to hit that like and subscribe. If you feel inspired, if you feel like you really learned something from this, let me know in the comments. And like always, I want to leave you guys with a question before I erase all of this and head on home. I want to ask you guys, if you could go anywhere you want to go for however long you could go for, with whoever you could go with, where would you go? And who would you take? I know who I would take, and I know where I would go. But like I said, if this was nice, then follow along for more Big 3 Thursday videos. I really enjoy making these, and it was really fun getting to rent this place out and using this whiteboard. I actually have a whiteboard at home, but I haven't figured out how to get it on my wall. So if I ever figure that out, then I can do these at home. But without further ado, I'm going to wrap this video up. It has been a pleasure, and I will see you guys next Thursday, or in the next video. Later, guys.